Backers, so time to deliver on our first deliverable for your help in backing our project. We want to get you guys involved in choosing where we actually go this year for our field trip. So how are we going to do this? I'm going to show you 3 locations which we think represent the best choices, and we're going to list the positive and negative aspects of each of these regions, and then we'll allow you guys to actually have a look and vote for these things. So what you're looking at now is Australia, obviously, and every single one of these little red dots or anything here with a name, these are actually all the recorded meteorites which have actually been found in Australia to date. So let's zoom in on the Nullarbor region. You can see here that vast majority of the Australia's meteorites are actually found in this region because it is actually one of the best places to look. So we look in the eastern side of the Nullarbor because it is easier for us to actually reach. Now everything in this brown region above of the trans-continental rail line, this is all Aboriginal land, and a lot of these meteorites were discovered prior to that being ratified. So we look into the regions below this area. So let's have a look at some of our previous ones here. You can see the purple and the blue and the green. These are the ones that we have found in the last 3 years. And as you can see that we're actually finding quite a lot of them in this area, which is probably within about 20 to 30 kilometers from the edge of the Nullarbor. But if we go further out into this area down here, you can see these long lines. These are sand dunes, which means that our chances of finding meteorites in those areas are quite low. So it really is a trade-off between sandy areas and what we'd call forested areas, which are not really forested because it's a desert, but there's enough dirt there and everything for it to be an issue. So we've chosen 3 locations. I think you can guess which they are: A, B, and C. Now, one of the biggest problems for us actually camping is finding a source of fuel, firewood, to cook food, because otherwise we'd have to bring it all in, and it's rather expensive, and it's not ideal. So we actually find oases to actually make a living off. Recently we've been pretty good. You can see these ones here where it says Camp 2014. I'll zoom in on one of those. You can see that there are these little lakes, and all those little black dots, they're trees. Now, we've been pretty spoilt for choice up in this region here, but we've been forced now, because we've picked all our low-hanging fruit, because we've been sticking to these roads, we're going to have to go further in. Luckily, we have a car from ANU this year. That's something with our extra costs, we can actually take a second car. So that means that we can venture further out, and if we run into trouble, we have a second car for safety regions. So we can be a little bit more adventurous this year. So the first region I want to talk about is Region A. Region A, we see this sort of terrain here. It's all kind of uniform. We don't see many lakes, we don't see many trees. It's quite flat. It's actually quite nice. It's actually about 24 square kilometers, that area with the A there. Unfortunately, there's no roads in, which means that we'd have to be bush bashing, which means we run the risk of puncturing tires. That could slow us down, and it's also a bit of a safety risk. This red line up here is an old mud track, but it looks like it probably hasn't been used for decades. That's also fill in with trees and bushes. And our oasis that we've found is actually really small. It's only a few trees, which probably isn't going to be enough for us to survive on. So this is one of our choices. The ground is good, but it's going to be quite hard to make a living there for the 10 days that we're actually on the surface. So our second region up here is very close in between our camps from 2012 and our camps from 2013. This area up here has a few roads into it, but once again the roads are not as good, but there's a lot more roads. And roads are important because we can go off the roads at any particular time, and we can basically go down them and spread ourselves out, and we can actually cover a lot more ground that way. There is a oasis here. We'll zoom in. This here isn't a meteorite. It was accidentally recorded. We've got to figure out which GPS coordinate we got wrong. But you can see there's lots of trees there, quite sheltered, so it should be good to actually make a camp there for the couple of weeks that we're actually out there. And we have plenty of roads. The surface, we have a few clay pans, and clay pans can be a blessing and a curse. It really depends on other factors. But historically, they have helped us in some respects to actually find meteorites. But we also find a lot of what we call gibber terrain, which is basically rocks, because of all the dust has blown all the sand away, and all we're left with rocks and hopefully meteorites. So that means it's an old surface. So B is pretty good. It's pretty well connected. We can do transverses from this road over here. We can do transverses from this road over here if we wish. So we could actually cover quite a lot of ground in this B region. And finally, our last choice is region C. Our camping spot from down here is another oasis. It is pretty tightly bound. We can see lots of trees in there. It might actually be a cave. We're not too sure. And once again, though, it's actually going to be really difficult to get to. There's very disjointed tracks, which means that these roads probably haven't been used in decades. So it's going to take quite a lot of bush bashing to actually get to that location. And it means once we're there, we don't really have an opportunity to go down further subsequent tracks and walk off them. So we won't be actually covering as much ground in C as we could in Site B. So there are our 3 locations that we're actually going to be having a look at. We'd like you guys to choose. We're going to send you out an email about how you can actually get in on this survey. And yeah, so we'll go to wherever you guys think is the best one for us. Happy choosing.